my name is Zach Maniadis, and I'm a microeconomist. I'm based at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. And I'm a microeconomist interested in the problem of science as an institution. That means that I'm interested in the scale-up problem from the theoretical perspective. In particular, I have strong interest in interdisciplinary research and in applying economic theory to tackle problems pertaining to science as a whole. In particular, my own reflection of how we researchers do things on top of the recent discussion about an alleged credibility crisis in science have made me realize that economics has an important role to play in terms of helping us understand the incentives and practices of scientists. For instance, game theory can be instrumental in helping us understand the consequences of some reform proposals in scientific practices, such as imposing transparency requirements in science. And given that we are in an era where there is an active discussion, as I mentioned, about the credibility of science, the implications for the scale-up problem are very important because reproducibility is a prerequisite for scalability. During my stay at the Griffin Center as a visitor, I focused particularly on my work on some fundamental scientific and democratic institutions. And my stay here offers me amazing opportunities, really, to be able to present my work and to meet with people, and in particular, to meet with people across a great variety of interests and specializations. So I've had the opportunity to speak about my work on institutions with world leaders in such varied fields as applied economics, game theory, political economy, psychology, experts in decision making. And obviously those are extremely important for gaining insights on my research and exchanging ideas. And of course, I'm utilizing also the amazing opportunities in terms of seminars and research centers, related research centers that I am interacting. And those are basically extremely useful for me. I find the scale-up effect extremely important and extremely problematic, and I believe that the inability when we do social science interventions and behavioral interventions at the large scale, the inability to get the expected effect sizes is extremely corrosive for both science and society. And let me try to explain that. We often, as scientists, we lament the tendency of politicians to disregard the experimental and scientific evidence when they make their decisions, and the fact that they often use different criteria. Now, if those failures are systematic, then obviously they undermine those arguments and they undermine trust in science and in and in evidence-based policy. And it's worth mentioning that evidence-based policy is quite an important topic these days in the UK, where I'm based, but also in the US. So ultimately, to put it very simply, if those interventions don't work when they are applied in the real world, the question may arise, what use is science for? So it is extremely important. Researchers should be studying the scale-up effect with an eye on understanding the causes of this effect, and therefore what we can do in order to alleviate those causes. For instance, our research team focuses on one part of the question, why don't we get similar results when we examine questions to scale? And this is, were the initial results true in the first place? Because we know from the new discipline of science called meta-research, that there are various reasons for which the results that appear in the literature might, to some degree, be artifacts rather than true effects. And this new discipline of meta-research allows us to examine the characteristics of a scientific literature to see whether there are factors that contribute to the possibility of such a bias or possible false positives. In particular, let me give you a particular example. It might be the case that the policymakers are contemplating on a large-scale study that tries to reproduce results that are found in a particular scientific literature. Now, if this literature is particularly new, it doesn't have established practices in terms of reporting their exact interventions, in terms of the data analysis and so on and so forth. This flexibility, we know from the discipline of meta-research that they contribute to potential concern about those results. And then, again, more analysis is required in terms of the hawk-eye view of the literature. And in general, those are the type of ways that researchers can help us think about whether a particular result is scalable. In terms of the particular role and importance of the initiatives that are taken this particular year at the Incubator Center, I have to emphasize that as someone who works on the incentives of scientists, I am relatively pessimistic about the ability of scientists from different disciplines to come together and actually work on the concentrating on a problem rather than on what a discipline, what is fashionable in a discipline. In particular, we know that scientists are busy people. We know that they're often interdisciplinary boundaries in terms of language, and we know that oftentimes impact in other disciplines is not as much incentivized for career considerations as much as impact within the discipline. This is the reason why the concept of having the brightest minds together at the same center in such an incredible place such as Chicago can provide a specific opportunity to actually get the insights of those people from different backgrounds. And it's necessary to get those insights in order to try and start theorizing about the problem. And then the results of theory, at least how I see it, those are the ones that are going to drive the real impact in the long run in terms of improving the scalability of interventions in early childhood.